All right, what's up, IGTV? I'm Scott here at Adapt. I'm the director of the Youth Development Program, and I'm here with Marv.
I'm the doctor of physical therapy here at Chainwork and Adapt.
And we're here today to talk to you about return to sport. So bringing an athlete who has an injury of some sort, or we'll give you a few cases of what we've dealt with specifically here, but bringing them back to sport after maybe they either tore an ACL, some type of shoulder injury, maybe even, broken a femur, anything that can happen, obviously, on a court or field. All right. So the difference that we have here at Adapt compared to most facilities is that we have the therapist on site with us and the trainer, myself, able to work back and forth. So to give you a great example is we had a 14-year-old female who came to us with an ACL injury after soccer, which is one of the most common things at that age. And right away she came in, I directed her right to Marv, and then Marv started the prehab, right? So how did the prehab go?
So a lot of times the whole idea behind prehab is that, say the ACL has already been torn and surgery's in the future, it's on the horizon, but there's things that we can do to kind of set the person up for surgery and set them up for the most success after the surgery is completed. So that's where prehab comes in. It consists of, exercises to build up strength, also help kind of mitigate the inflammation to allow for a more successful surgery. And then at that point, when surgery's done, they're ahead of the game when it's time to start really getting
to be honest, I feel like that's one of the things that separates your speed back to sport is getting that prehab done before you actually have the surgery, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In some cases, sometimes it's not appropriate, but most cases it is appropriate to start getting some type of exercise, some type of muscle contraction. So that way the client is more familiar with the exercises that they're going to be doing after surgery as well.
Correct, and it combats the atrophy.
Combats the atrophy as well.
Because I remember when I had my knee surgery, that was like one of the biggest things. I didn't have prehab,
right,
and the atrophy was crazy.
I'll say overall, people who do the prehab end up doing a lot better long term than those who don't, for sure.
Awesome. So this girl came, she did the prehab with Marv. Obviously they went and they had the surgery with their orthopedic doctor, and then they came back, and then Marv started right away with the post rehab after the surgery. And then I think you started like the next week, right?
Yeah, it's
like
pretty,
a Friday
it's
to
pretty
a Monday
quick turnaround. I would say it's sometimes within 1 to 2 weeks, most of the time within 1 to 2 weeks after surgery we start up. The sooner the better, because the quicker you start to get the range of motion back, decrease the inflammation, the quicker they can get back to more higher level activity. So the sooner the better, for sure.
Nice. So like I was mentioned before, as part of that like give and take that we have is, so as he was doing the post rehab surgery, after the surgery, he was doing the post rehab, he would, let me know about what her, like her scale was going to be, or what she's going to be there in 2 more weeks. You're going to be starting with her on Monday, or 3. And then we would kind of go back and forth. I would be able to check in with her. Hey, how's it going? How you feeling? Kind of keep them motivated for more of my side of the work. And then obviously he's doing all the labor, right, really, and then really getting her going.
From a manual therapy standpoint, especially early on, it's important just to get the inflammation down. That's where the manual therapy comes in to help increase the range of motion. With this person in particular, we wanted to get her back to about 120 degrees of knee bending, which is the hardest part, within the first month. So that's the goal with that. And then from there, we can start really getting into more of a strengthening program where we can start transitioning more towards what the trainers are doing.
So we started, I think you pretty much had it for like 6 to 8 weeks, constant with you.
Yeah.
And then around that 8-9 week mark, we started taking over a little bit, where I would start doing some type of training aspect in conjunction with you, within your limits. You said, hey, stay away from this, stay away from that. So like when as soon as he started coming back to me, I starting her with like eccentric loading. So basically just controlling the movement up and down depending on the range and depending on what we're working on. But for example, give you like a box step up. So we would, step up on a box, and then we would control 3 to 5 seconds down to help build that strength back in their legs. Initially we just started with body weight, and then we eventually moved on to 10, 5, 15 pounds.
More gradual loading now.
Yeah, correct. And then remember as we went into the next phase and I started talking to you about it, we started doing any type of like lateral loading or some type of even like movement base. And then what we were dealing with was that scar tissue. Like felt like they were almost regressing, but not really. They were just pushing new boundaries, right?
Pushing new boundaries, exactly. So I like to call them these hallmarks or these checkpoints throughout the rehab process, where you're getting into new activities that they're not used to, and then you might start feeling little kinks, little bumps in the road along the way. So at that point, if they're having trouble with any of the higher level activities, we'll kind of regress a bit and try to address any of those those kinks.
Well, I remember the day that happened was I was doing some type of like lateral lunge or something, maybe a lateral step or whatever it was, and then they were just constantly like, man, this is just bugging. And they were just, you know, tired. I could tell that they weren't really ready to train. Literally walked her in here right over to Marv, and then he started doing some type of I know we did some type of manual therapy, and then you started doing some like ice therapy as well, and then we regressed, and we, you know, that week I think you saw her maybe 1 or 2 extra times instead of seeing this, and we just kind of went back and forth. So that was like the perfect situation.
It's
pretty
a perfect
much.
back and forth, the perfect transition. It's just it really helps because just like with any fitness program or strengthening program, it's important to sometimes incorporate deload weeks and just to kind of like scale back, give the tissue a little bit of time to recover. And the same thing applies, probably even more so from a rehab standpoint.
Yeah, just like in sports too, they always give a week before. You know, typically you go into districts or whatever, is you usually get a week off, or you schedule like the, you know, maybe a few K games where you get the best players.
So the same thing happens. Some weeks you have to scale back a bit and try to just get back to some of the manual therapy and try to facilitate a little bit of a recovery before getting back to the higher level stuff.
Yeah, so then once we finished all of her loading and strengthening, we started moving to like more dynamic stuff. And then obviously I get the okay with Marv every time. Hey, she ready for this? Yeah, man, put her on this. Hey, or he'll tell me, hey, push her a little bit more, you know, hey, back down. And then we started doing some like agility and plyo. And we always start with like linear base, you know, we're doing natural running or gait pattern work. And then we start getting into the more aggressive things as, you know, cutting side to side or bounding and the more advanced movements.
Right.
And literally it was a great transition. And I couldn't believe the fact that, you know, she was basically ready within 6 months to be 100% on the field. Like she never lost a step.
Yeah.
Actually faster maybe, right?
Yeah, probably faster because, you know, you're more aware of your body, more aware of, you know, the body mechanics and how to move the proper way, which, you know, goes further than the actual rehab process. It's plays into injury prevention later on as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think one of the biggest things with the benefit is that a lot of times you'll be doing rehab one place and then your trainer or your coach is another place, so that communication can get lost along the way.
Yeah.
So this helps to kind of keep things consistent, and it helps keep the client a little more comfortable with the process.
Yeah, because they're calling one person basically. Even if, let's say the mom does call me, I'm literally in the other room to talk to Mark. Or I can just put it on speaker, and then we're both getting the same information, or vice versa.
Right.
You know, so that's always good. Another thing to go back to like return to sport, you said about injury prevention.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot naturally. Is that so? We'll have an athlete that's just training after they're either in sport or postseason, and they're just training, you know, for life even. And all of a sudden, you know, something might come up where we see an imbalance. You know, what was that tennis player's name that we had? And he did. Remember, I was doing something like Y, T's, and I's or something. And I'm looking at like his shoulder girdle, and like one was sliding really well, and one wasn't. You know, and it really past, you know, theoretically my scale of work. So I brought him into Marvin, and you gave me like 3 or 4 different exercises right away to start working on that.
Yeah, just to kind of fine tune those imbalances, and then they tend up doing a lot better with the more gross movements if those nuances are taken care of first.
Yeah, another kid that, who knows, that maybe if we didn't address that, he might have, you know, hurt his shoulder.
A higher risk for injury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
balance equals a higher risk for injury generally.
So, yeah, I think so. Basically, to end up following up with everything is just that having the situation that we have is a pretty great dynamic that allows for, you know, anybody, whether they are athlete or not, but specifically for athletes, being able to get them, you know, back on the field faster or keeping them on the field so they don't run into more issues, you know, by working with us. So that's the pretty good transition that I think we got.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't matter what sport. Every sport's a little bit different in the process, but, you know, we're confident with the system that we have that we can pretty much facilitate the most speedy recovery that you're going to get. So
awesome. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.